Good morning. Well, I am feeling much better today. That is a good thing. So we're going to work on this corn planter here. Brock's here. Good morning, Brock.
Good morning.
We have to fix his mistakes from yesterday. We'll figure out. Did you ever get that apart? No. So we still got to get that one gauge wheel off of there and get that taken care of. And then I think we're going to attempt to at least do some disassembly today. Figure out how this whole old ground drive fertilizer pump comes off of here. And yeah, let's just get started with it. So Brock broke this bolt off yesterday because left-handed threads. Anything that's rolling on this side of the planter, it's left-handed threads, Brock. Same thing with the openers back there. Anyway. This stud being seized in there so much, we just put some vice grips on there and turn it the right way, and she's going to thread right out. There you go. That was pretty easy. So, all right. How are we going to get this? So this arm here has got a shaft welded to it that goes all the way through the center of the bearing hub on this blade. The bearing is not turning on that shaft. There's a bearing with an inner race in there, so it's not actually turning. It gets seized up when fertilizer gets in there and it corrodes and leaks and stuff. That's why we take them apart every year. This one here, judging by the frame and how much corrosion there is on the hoses and stuff, I would say we had a spill here. But when this one folds, it's right underneath the tank there, and so anytime you spill anything, this is the row that it falls on. So, how do we get that apart? The worst thing we can do is take a hammer and beat on the end of it because we'll peen it over and then it'll never go in there. We can try and get a block and tap on it, pound on it a little bit, see if that helps at all. Otherwise, we're going to have to start taking set screws and taking the nut off and pull the whole blade bearing hub and take it over to the press, which is probably where we're going to end up, let's be honest. All right, so Brock's working on that fertilizer opener there. I wanted to take off a couple of these opener blades and look at them, measure, check out these. These are the seed tube guards, they're called. And a lot of times we replace those the same times we replace the opener blades because they get worn here. This one doesn't actually look too bad. Usually they'll be down to a V here, quite a bit more. There's some wear on the side, but I don't know that we need to replace those necessarily. So this opener measures 14 and 9/16, which is probably time to replace that one. So I'm going to take a couple more off, but I have a feeling we're going to end up getting blades today. Took one off towards the center here by the mainframe tires, and we're 14 and 7/16 on this one, so a little bit less even. I'm going to go ahead and replace all these openers, so they're going to have to come off today. We're going to have to go get some. Yeah. All right, well, we ended up taking that nut off and taking that whole bearing assembly and blade off there, so we're going to have to take this over to the press and press on this, support the bottom side, and it should pop out of there. All right, we'll try this here, see if we can get it to move a little bit. We don't have a lot of clearance, but it should go. Oh yeah, look at that. Like butter. Just takes a little more pressure than we can exert by hand. Well, the old never sees didn't work so good on that one. It was taken apart a year ago before we started planting, but it got all rusty and we had to press it out. It took a little bit. So I think the bearings are okay in here. We're going to try and clean that up as best we can inside in the shaft and put it all back together. I don't think we bent anything that it needs replaced, so that's good. Again, a little side project we're working on here. We've got this water pump, transfer pump that we've been using. It got left down to Berkey and apparently never got drained last year, so Dad said it was dripping a little bit. He thought maybe it was cracked the plastic or something, and it was time for a new pump part. Anyway, the motor is still good, but I couldn't find any visual cracks on the outside. There was, however, in the seal, a gouge. Where was that? Right there. See that? So I'm wondering if that's why it was dripping. So we took it apart. Brock took this stuff apart, and he did break the impeller. But if you look at the housing inside there, look at that. Those holes, not supposed to be there. That is completely shot, worn out. Got a chunk taken out of it out here. That's just wear from use for years and years, and that will kill your efficiency. So the impeller sits in there, you can see half of it, and then this bolts in around it. The water comes in this side, there's a check valve there, and then it gets flung out around, out through the top there, and then out the top of this housing. And when you have holes inside there and out here where your impeller is running, it doesn't allow that impeller to pump very good. So pump is flat wore out anyway. We got to try and get it apart. We're trying to get this impeller off the shaft. Can't get it to come apart there very good, but we'll just buy a new pump and stick it on there. Well, I got it off. I broke the ceramic seal in the process, which I would hope a new pump would come with a new one anyway. Problem though, that motor shaft is in rough shape. Real rough shape. So, I don't know. We'll clean her up and look, but I don't know. Okay, that is back together, except for, you know, the broken bolt part. So, we're going to go get one of those anyway. We got to get openers, and we'll get that bolt. And I don't really think there's too much else. I don't know. It's all I know of right now that we need. The no-till holders are in good shape. I don't need to replace those. So just the seed discs, and like I said, those seed tube guards look okay on the ones that I took apart, so we're not going to worry about those right now either. And yeah, we're moving right along, so that's good. All right, so we're going to go get some parts, and we're going to take Brayson with us. I tried getting his brother to come, but him and Grandma are making cookies, so no dice there. And we're going to take Brock. We'll grab some lunch, get our parts. We'll come back and keep working on this. We're back. There's all of our new openers, 32 of them, 16 rows worth. Brock's got the bolt for that last gauge wheel. We're getting that put back on. Grabbed a can of PB Blaster because we were out penetrating oil. So that's good. So now we get to start working on this and either replacing opener blades, or I think I want to try and take this fertilizer pump off today. I don't know if we'll put any of the new stuff on, but at least want to get this one off and out of the way. All right, so we're going to use our overhead crane to help support that and lift it off of here. We've got a couple of hoses we need to take off. These two and this wire harness are the distribution hoses that go to each side and the pressure sensor. So we're just going to take that off on the top. We'll deal with those in a little bit. We also have to get the main supply hose off from the bottom here. We'll probably take that apart right here where it's easy to get to. So I close this valve. There is going to be some RV antifreeze in there. We're going to spill a little bit. That's okay. Okay. And then I believe that we just need to take this bolt and 4 bolts down there, 2 on each side off, and that whole thing will come off of there, one piece. Last bolt. Well, it's fairly well balanced, actually. Okay. What are we caught on? Something. Shouldn't be that. Wire harness. That was it. Dang it. Missed one. We pulled the end off. Good thing we're done with this.
I'm balancing this thing.
Well, that cleans things up and opens it up there. So I know that our new pump will bolt right into this spot. I don't know if it uses those same mounting holes or how exactly yet. So we'll have to get it out and look at the brackets and instructions and stuff. I am noticing, though, that both of these cylinders are leaking. And now's a good time to put seals in them. So we might do that while we've got this apart. These are a lot easier to get them out of there than the other planter is. We know how to do it. I think I even have the seal kits for at least one of them, if not both of them. So that's probably going to happen. Brock's getting our hoist pulled back because we're doing it. Okay, well, I just went to verify that those seal kits that we had, that we were using in the other planter, were the right ones for these cylinders, and they're off by 1 part number, and so I can't guarantee that they will work or that they're the same. So we're not going to take those off now. I'm going to get a couple of them coming. They didn't have all the stuff that we would need anyway at the dealer, so it's not a big deal that we didn't get them when we were there today. I thought that a couple of these were leaking. I just assumed that the seal kits that we had were the same, because these cylinders I thought were the exact same as the ones on the wings of the 1790. Apparently they're just slightly different. I don't know what exactly, but either way, it doesn't matter. So we'll get those coming and fix those up sometime later here. But I think let's start working on opener discs, Brock. So we'll work through a couple on the ends and I'll let him have at it, because they're not hard to do, just takes a little time. First thing that's got to happen is the gauge wheel's got to come off. We'll just set them down out of the way. And then we pop that center cap off and take the opener disc off. Right-handed threads.
Yep.
Our tire needs some air there next to it. That one's flat. Okay, so then that comes off, and you got to make sure you don't lose any of the spacers that are in there. Okay. Sometimes there are some on the outside, because that's where I like to store them when they're extra. This is trash. What did I do with the tape measures? There's one. Just to see. Why won't that stay? 14, slightly under a half, so that's replacement time. So let's take both of them off before we put the new one on. So do the other side. Left-handed. Cool.
Yeah.
Good work. Okay, get that blade off. There goes one of our shims. Any on the outside of that one? Nope. Okay, well, I got called away to go unload a seed truck when we were working on that first one, but now we're doing the second one. So while Brock is getting those blades ready, we're going to look at a couple of things on here. One, we're inspecting this seed tube guard just to make sure everything looks okay. This bracket here, our seed tube fits down through this hole in the top, and it holds our seed firmer in place. So we're just looking at that, making sure nothing's cracked, broken, anything along those lines. It's all tight. It's good. Up here, this little piece here, they call it the mustache, I think, but this is the gauge wheel arm stop. And so when these gauge wheels pivot up like that, they hit that stop, and that's what controls the depth. If you'll watch on this one, when I move this handle, it moves that up and down, allows the gauge wheels to pivot up or down more or less depending on where you've got that. That's how we control the depth of our row units. So we're making sure all of that stuff is in good shape and looks right. And yeah, looks good. So, opener blade. First one goes on here. Other one goes on the other side. And then you do have to tighten them up and then check the contact area. Put the shims back how they were. We're just leaving them as they were and checking it. And then if it needs to be adjusted, we'll take it back apart and readjust. Now, because this is Border View Farms and we do everything by the book, we broke out the torque wrench. These get 90 foot-pounds, 122 Newton meters, according to the book. And so Brock is going to torque this down where it's supposed to be, and then we'll check our contact area. Nope, that's not it. You got to go till it's continuous. Keep going. All right, good enough. You got to spin it. Or do we go the other way? Left-handed threads. Best way to remember is that when you're loosening from the backside, you always are pushing down. When you're tightening, you're lifting up, no matter which side of the disc you're on. And it's designed that way so that it, as those blades are spinning and going around, they're actually tightening the nut rather than loosening it. Okay. Now we'll check the contact. So we're shoving our business cards in there. Pretty darn good. I know. Whatever. Yep, all right, so that one's good. So now you can put your caps back on, the dust covers on the openers there. The new blades all come with new dust covers. And then the gauge wheels can go back on. So now adjusting these gauge wheels is a little bit tricky because you got to turn two things at the same time. Basically, the center bolt is what's holding it tight to the row unit. That outside bushing there is threaded and allows the whole gauge wheel arm to move in and out. So you got to hold one while you tighten the other. That's still too tight. And you want this, you want it touching, but you don't want it rubbing too hard. You don't want it too tight. And it's got to be able to move freely. So yeah, that way. You're going to need to pull it off and go another flat. Okay, that's better. Now the tricky thing is holding it while you tighten it, and it not. That's still a little tight. Move it more. Move this more. Start there because it's going to tighten up as you tighten that outside bolt. Is that your wrench holding it? Way too tight. All right, so that's pretty good. Now it pivots up, right? Brock pivoted up, and then it should drop on its own, which it does. It spins. It's rubbing, but not too tight. That one's good. So this style of gauge wheel arm, this is the old version from John Deere. This one over here is the new version. It's a different bushing and it's not supposed to wear as much. The problem with this one, the old style, was that it wears on the threads inside here, both on the arm and the bushing, and they can get some play in them. So I'll show you before we take that one apart. So if I can wiggle this gauge wheel in and out closer and farther from the row, which this one is not bad, that's a bad thing. And as they wear, it gets sloppy and worse and worse. Most of ours are still the old ones because, well, they haven't worn out yet. On our 1790, they were in bad shape, and so we actually have replaced all of those with a different style. I really like that RK kit where it uses shims to move them in and out, and you don't have to worry about adjusting that threaded bushing so precisely because they're a real pain, and those other style are much better. These aren't wore out yet, and so I'm trying to use them up and run them before we switch them to the other style, more or less. And they might last the life of the planter for us. Who knows? I don't know. A couple more years, we might be thinking about a corn planter. Here's the old opener compared to the new. You can see how much we've worn off of that. Solid 1/4 of an inch all the way around. This one was a little under 14.5, so that's the life expectancy of them. The big thing, though, also is this bevel. You can see we've got this nice clean edge bevel on the new one. The old ones, that's pretty well all wore off, and that's when they say to replace them, so that's what we're doing. Okay, well, Brock's working on openers. I've been unpacking our Surefire system here, trying to understand it all and figure it out. The instructions they're kind of there. And no, they're better than I thought. They're just spread out into multiple different places. So we're gonna forget about the pump for right now because I want to work on that cylinder and let Brock work back there. But these are the indicators and kind of the distribution components of it that are going to replace that stack. And so we need to remove all of those things. And yeah, so I'm going to start working on that, seeing what we can take off of there. Those two kind of T-tower bracket things along with that one are what's going to replace that, and we're going to have a more of a tower there with the stuff mounted on it. I hope and I think it'll be okay with folding. We're going to have to watch that real tight when we go to fold this up and make sure that it's not going to hit on our tank or anything else in the center there, but I think it should be okay. The other thing we can do is just move it out a little bit farther. So I don't know, we'll figure it out. All right, well, so on this side I did that. I put took the old one off, put that bracket on. I mounted it behind the bar instead of in front of the bar because I'm worried about it hitting that tank when we fold, and the farther back I keep it, the more likely it's okay there. So, I don't know. We'll try that. Well, Brock got 7 rows done of the openers. He's got to go. Thanks, Brock. When are you coming back?
Friday.
Friday. Okay. So we're going to see what we can get done on this between now and Friday. I'm working on getting some stuff mounted up there. They come with 4 different balls inside those float gauges. I'll explain how all this stuff works later, but basically I just need the one in there. We're going to start with the red plastic ones and see if those work. I don't know if they will or not, but all right. Thank you. So these flow gauges, the top piece just comes out. There's a seal in there, this little clip that retains it, and then there's a screen in there to keep the balls from floating up too far. And then those come out, and we're taking the steel one, the glass one, and the green one out, setting them up there, put the red one back in, and then we put our screen back on and put the top back on. And then we put the clip in. The clips are a little bit difficult because they sort of spread out. You got to compress them, and getting them through the holes far enough is a little tricky, but we're getting it. It's not quite in all the way. I'll have it seated just right, but anyway, that's what I'm doing there. I'm guessing a little bit on which ball to use. I'm using the recommendations here for what our flow rate is. We're in the red plastic range. It does say that the plastic balls may float in heavier fertilizer such as 1034-0. About half of our starter blend is 1034-0. So whether that one works or not, I don't know. On my old ones here, we were using blue plastic ones. This is a different brand, so the ball colors aren't going to correlate. But they worked pretty well, so I'm hoping that these will work just as well. Okay, so there's that. That's the flow meters that go on here. And essentially the way these work is that our input coming from our pump that's going to be right over there is going to come in on this port and this port. There are 2 separate sections here. And then it comes in through the bottom here, and this acts as a manifold. And then the flow can go up through these gauges, which forces that ball up. And they're tapered so that the higher up the gauge it gets, the more of a passageway there is for the fluid, the fertilizer, to go around that ball and stop it from rising. And so what you want to see when you're operating this is that they're all floating somewhere at the same level. It doesn't really matter where that level is. It's going to change with your rates, but you want to see them at the same level all the way across on all of them. And then it goes out from the top into the next pieces that we're going to get ready to install on there. So our next components here are these check valve, flow control. This is for the dual metering tube attachment, and the input is in the back there. We basically hang that in the slot on all of them, and then this piece here slides over top of it, and then they get bolted in, and that's what holds them. So I imagine this is going to take a little bit of doing to get it aligned and slid in there just right. One of my helpers is back. He's cleaning my floor for me, wearing Grandpa's hat. Okay, well, I think that's as far as we're going to go right now. So this fitting up here has to get connected with this fitting back here. Perhaps I should have put those hose barbs on there before I tightened all that stuff on there. Yeah, that might come back off. I don't know. We'll see. But there's a hose barb that goes in there, and then they just connect to the top. And then these are a valve, and you can close each one of these or both of them. Open one, open the other, open both, and adjust the flow rates of the it's to maintain pressure is what it is, because you have 2 different metering tubes or 2 different sizes in there. So yeah, once we get the system in the field, I'll try and explain how it works a little bit better. Okay, well, I got the other side on. It goes faster when you know what you're doing the second time. So we're done out here for today. The boys are ready to go home. Well, at least one of them is. You're not. Your brother is. And I'm done, so we're going to go home. The pile's slightly smaller today now than it was when we started here, but we got a long ways to go on this project. I'm kind of just taking stuff off as we're replacing it so that I know, how all the hoses are routed and that kind of stuff, and maybe we can duplicate that a little bit with the new system. Whoop. Oh yeah, check it out. We got sides today. We made a little progress. That's awesome. I was not anticipating that. Thought they might work on the roof, but cool. Apparently I forgot to wrap this one up, so apologize for that. But have a great night, everybody. Thanks for watching. Hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you again in the morning.